What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the best channel on YouTube. Today, we got another segment of Podcast Sunday, where me and guests speak on different topics about self-improvement and motivation, personal-wise and business-wise, while also providing some fire gameplay. Appreciate you watching, and let's get into it.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Podcast Sunday. You already know the guest we got on today, my cousin Terrence. No need for further introduction. But yeah, so this is gonna be the last episode of this series, so we're just gonna finish it all up today with the last three topics or perspectives, if you want to call it that. So yeah, we're just gonna break it down. I'm gonna have Terrence starting off the reading for today.
Yep. So this one, number 8, it's by Jen Gottlieb. She is co-founder and chief mindset officer of Super Connector Media and host of Unfair Advantage Live. That's a premier publicity event connecting entrepreneurs to media. And what her perspective is on how to find your passion and utilize it is when you're young, she says we often choose a career based on what others want for us. We're conditioned by our families, teachers, and peers to pursue what they think would be best for us. We don't know ourselves well yet, so we start on a journey to fulfill others' dreams instead of our own. What's great about heading down the wrong path is that it teaches you what we don't want and helps us discover what makes us feel fulfilled. The key is having the courage to shift towards what makes you happy, even if it rocks the boat or it upsets others. Follow what feels good, and you'll eventually arrive at the sweet spot of ultimate alignment. I reinvented myself and my career more times than I can count before I landed in one where I felt fulfilled, and I'll probably shift several more times as I continue to grow.
Sheesh. As I stated before, a lot of these are like very similar. We did have a few that already spoke on this type of topic or somewhere in this area.
I think it might even have been the previous episode where we were talking about doing things for others.
Yeah,
it's pretty much similar. It's like number 7, find your own path, not your friends or families.
Yeah.
So we could probably brush up on this one really quick.
Yeah,
whole episode.
Exactly. So I mean, a little review. It's definitely vital that you make sure that what you're doing is making you happy, because you can't find motivation by making somebody else happy in your career path. You can't you're not going to be very successful if you don't enjoy what you do. I mean, you can do something for, and I think I even said it. What's it called? In one of the, I forget which topic it had said it, but that you could be, well, no, Terrence, you had said how you could be doing something for 30 years. You said you hope that like you can do something that you don't enjoy, but that's just going to leave you like miserable. You're not going to have motivation to make it any better. You're not going to have motivation to grow it at all. It's just going to be something that you do. That's not a good way to live life in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging because you could definitely, I mean, I kind of disagree with what you said originally, where you were talking about how you can't be successful if you don't do what you love. And there's plenty of people that have businesses, are successful, but they don't truly love it. They don't really have a passion for it, and they've been able to be successful. But if you're talking about, I guess, life happiness and fulfillment and all that stuff, getting up every single day to do the same thing, it makes it a lot harder when you don't enjoy it. And it also makes it harder to push through those times where things get a little bit rocky, especially if you're an entrepreneur. If you're an entrepreneur because your family or your friends tell you that it would be a good idea, and you really don't have that instinct, you really don't have that gene, it's going to be super hard for you to keep pushing through every time things fail, because ultimately the responsibility is on your shoulders.
Exactly.
And if you don't have fulfillment, if you don't have that internal drive and internal motor, then you're going to get eaten up by that, something like that. So
exactly. And then
really
when you're
important.
go ahead. then when you find yourself in those low points where you're like out of motivation, you have nothing to bring that motivation back, and that's when people start to fall off. If you fall off one
Right.
time, then it turns into 2 times, 3 times, the next thing you know, you're not doing it at all. So
Right.
it's you have to
Yeah,
make that passion and love for what you do is the thing that keeps bringing you back into that motivation, to that mindset. So
for
if you
sure.
get rid of that, then you won't be able to redeem yourself, I guess you could call it. And
Yeah, I mean, a
mhm,
lot of people are driven off of the fear of their family rejecting them. So
yeah,
they're like, oh, I'll do this. I'll do what my family's teachers, peers want me to do because I
yeah,
want to make them happy and make them feel good and not have an awkward, like they're just non-confrontational people typically,
yeah,
and they will make sure that everybody else is good except for them.
yeah,
And then what ends up happening is you're so fearful and you're living in somebody else's fears, that you'll fail,
huh?
and you end up not being able to build up a certain level of self-confidence and self-awareness to
Yeah,
where you can actually pursue what you want to do because you're just caught up in satisfying people for years on end.
yeah, got you. Um, and as I stated, and I didn't even wanted to, like you said, how you didn't agree with the first statement. That's why I kind of had changed it to the what's it called? Because I realized as I was speaking that you can be happy. I mean, not happy. You can be happy. You can be successful in doing something that you don't want to do or that you don't
Right.
enjoy doing. But I mean, I don't know, because I wouldn't find that. I would. I don't know. It's weird. I would say, would that be success? Like
I mean,
success is kind of
in the
uh
perspective, I guess if you're talking about the perspective of like the general population,
mm,
you know, you can, like, let's say for an example, right, you worked for your dad,
yeah,
you didn't really find fulfillment in it, but you worked for him and you learned the ropes, you pushed through, eventually you got to like a managerial position
hmm,
where you were running a lot of stuff and you were making six figures, let's
hmm,
say. Let's say you guys opened up another branch and you were running that branch. It was successful
hmm,
monetarily,
yeah,
and you were taking home a good amount of money.
yeah,
To the regular person, they'll look at that and be like, "Wow, you're a successful human being. You have a certain income." But to
yeah,
you, you might be like, regretful, or you might feel like you never actually got the opportunity to chase what you truly wanted,
yeah,
whether that's YouTube gaming, your own stream of entrepreneurial interests.
hmm,
So, yeah, you could be successful in it, but you can't. There's no way to guarantee that just because you follow somebody else's path or somebody else's interest that you will, find that fulfillment.
hmm,
You could definitely mirror somebody else's fulfillment. Like Gary V, his dad had a liquor or a wine store, and he found a love for wine. But I mean, his love is really for just mastering the art of selling things.
yeah,
So he found he was able to do that with wine. He was able to do that with whatever he was doing.
hmm,
Um, and that just happened. And he happened to take over his dad's liquor store and grow it. But let's say he didn't like selling things and he was just stuck there. I mean, I'm sure he would have been miserable.
exactly, yeah. And then what people don't realize is that you can't bet on life. So once you're
Yeah,
going through these experiences, these are forever attached to your life. So you can't like
right.
rebound and be like, oh, I'm gonna do this for this amount of time, and then after this, I'm gonna be happy. You have to be happy now because this time is now. you can't you
Right.
can't reset time.
No,
It's
I think that's a huge point that you hit on right there, where a lot of people will, and I mean, I guess I'm, uh, I guess responsible for doing a similar thing,
mm,
where because a lot of what I'm doing is in the path that I'm on
hmm,
is focused so heavily on delayed gratification
yeah,
and not getting to your end goal until like 10 years down the line. I've definitely been in undergraduate school and college, and been working so hard with like the idea in mind that like, oh yeah, eventually I will get that fulfillment or get that happiness that I want. But for now, it's just training and going through this process, and that's all good and everything. But eventually, you run out of that mental perspective of, hey, I'm just gonna just keep waiting.
Yeah.
And you have to find some way. You become demotivated after a while, and you have to find some way to motivate yourself. And that's typically, for me, it was, stepping my foot into different things that involved the career I wanted.
Yeah.
So that it could bring me closer to that, or I could feel, some level of fulfillment in another way. So, I think, like you said, getting that fulfillment from the jump, understanding that you have to keep yourself happy first. And although you might be on a long path of delayed gratification, it's super important to still have that motivation and that drive, not just from your imagination, but from real life events.
Exactly. And I'm a huge advocate for definitely balancing the workplace where you don't just do work, even though you might be doing the work that, like how we're talking about, getting to the work that you like enjoy doing, like your passion and stuff like that, but also to make sure that you have a balance between work and recreation, just to get a rest. And like, I know how you even took a week vacation recently, so it's you have to make sure that you're not, even if you might be enjoying what you do, it's still work. And it's still something that'll drain you mentally, physically, all that. You have to make sure that you have a balance, rest, and then get back better than ever. All right, so we're gonna hop on the next one. This one's from Matt Clark, co-founder and chairman of Amazing.com and co-creator of Amazing Selling Machine. All right, so his is don't give up, and that kind of ties directly into what we're saying. Motivation keeps you in that mind state of not giving up. Start off. Most people never find their passion because they give up too early. 2 years into building my first online business, I felt stuck. I considered quitting, but I knew that if I did, I might never stick with anything long enough to succeed. Eventually, I learned to love what I did, especially after becoming successful. Fulfillment comes from success, not the other way around. Pick something that's aligned with your values and stick it out until you succeed. Otherwise, you'll never reap the rewards, confidence, and a sense of mastery. List what you want from your work, including the amount of money and how you spend your time. Write down a handful of options, then pick one and start moving forward. The best time to start was yesterday. The second best is today.
Solid. Really solid. So for me, I think, and we're gonna make another video on the importance of consistency and sticking through things. But I think to hit on this one, he brings up a great point where a lot of people will quit when they get that first, roadblock or that first obstacle in the road where things get a little bit tough. And they may say it's not for me, or they may quit. But that kind of goes back to, let's see if I could pull her up, the woman Michelle Lucchese, where she was talking about her dad made her do every sport, and she made sure she tried everything with effort and vigor. And, I think that all ties into your passion and actually doing something with emphasis. If you're doing something with that long-term goal in mind, that you will eventually fall in love with it and it'll eventually be very beneficial for you, then you will push through those hard times. But if you're just doing something for the sake of doing it, it may be easy to quit. And that's a tough thing to balance when you're trying to find your passion.
Mm-hmm.
Because how do you know when something's actually not for you?
Yeah.
And if you're unsure of yourself. So
Yeah.
it's a tough thing to balance, and I can imagine it being really hard where you're on a search for a passion, but you don't know what your passion is. You don't know what's perfect, and things can be going perfect for like 3 months, and then all of a sudden it sucks.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. How do you how would one determine? I mean, do you have an experience where maybe that happened to you, or I can't think of?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't have I wouldn't say I have a personal experience on, like that specific what you had said, but I think one thing that I believe that can help you determine if you're passionate or not is if you. I'm not sure who had said it. I think it might have been my dad, but if it's something that you can see yourself doing, in the future, so it's something that you could like visually picture yourself doing and still enjoying after a certain amount of time. So like if you're unsure at all, then I would say then you could rethink and revisit, and try out different things. But if it's something that you're like you actually have like a vision of yourself doing this for 25 years in the future and still enjoying it, if you have that much of a joy when you're doing something, then I believe that possibly help you figure out if something's like passionate or not. I'm not sure. Do you agree with that statement or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great advice.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes great advice could be too great, where it's like, is that really realistic? Because I can see myself being in a position where I really don't know. Like, if you ask a 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old, even a 21, 22, that's, they just went through college or they just went through, high school, and they're coming out and they're like, what do I want to do with my life? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just go work in a union like my dad did, or maybe I'll just do this. Like, how do you don't know necessarily what you want to do for the rest of your life, because what you know is all based off of what you've personally experienced yourself. So if you grew up in a household where it was typical to go work in construction, and that's all you really envisioned for your life, and that's all you've ever been exposed to, all your uncles, brothers, dad went to construction, grandfather, then you're going to be like, oh, I guess I'm going into construction for the rest of my life. That's my life path. My family did it, so that means I'm going to do it. So you never really know. Same thing with maybe your situation. All your brothers before you worked in with your dad. Yeah. So routinely, you would do the same.
Yeah.
So, like, how would you know what you want to do for the rest of your life unless you necessarily went through that process of trying out new things? And you didn't really try out working for your dad. You kind of just fell into that. You did it for a while, and then you saw everybody else going off and doing their own ventures, and you're like, wait, what about me?
Yeah.
Where's my passion? Where's my, And then you're like, wait, what am I really doing? Am I really doing what I am fulfilled doing? I think you kind of had that wake up call. So it's super hard to see. And then you're in a state now where you're kind of like, all right, what do I see doing for the rest of my life? And
exactly,
as a 19-year-old, I don't expect you to have that answer.
That is true.
When I'm going through that same thing, for me, I don't know. I used to think like, hey, what do I want to do? They always say pick something that you love, because then you'll never work a day. And I think, at the end of the day, work is work, but you have to kind of think about the phases in your life too. Because you might be in a stage where like a person may be in a situation where you're like, all right, I want to open up this pie shop, and I
Yeah.
think I can make pies for the rest of my life. And then you get to the point where 10 years in of making pies, you're like, right, I'm kind of tired of making pies. And it's like, have you lost your passion? Have you lost everything because you are tired of making pies after 10 years? No. I mean, that just means that you're done with that stage of your life, and maybe you want to take more of a managerial perspective. Instead of making the pies yourself, you want to start opening up different branches and start teaching people how they can grow their business over a 10-year period. So everything's in stages, and it's kind of just stepping foot into what you have a emotional attachment to and an emotional drive towards, and then just going from there. I guess to kind of tie back to what this guy was saying. You know, I've definitely been in situations where I tried stuff and I was ready to quit after like 1 month, and then eventually persevere through just because I don't like quitting things, and then I ended up loving it like years later. So
yeah. No, I definitely agree with what you're saying. And I by no means am an expert in finding your passion. So, I mean, like I said, I don't have the answer. That was just my There's no I can't give you any. I don't think anybody can give you the answer on how to find your passion. What you can do is try different things. That's my best advice, because you can't find anything if you're doing nothing. You have to try out and see what you like. Like if you're sitting down playing video games all day, not doing a YouTube channel or something like that, you're not going to find that fulfillment. You can ask and rack your mind on what you want to do, but if you don't try out different things, you'll never know. So I'd say that's the best advice to give somebody if they're trying to find their passion, just to try out different things, because you can't do anything from not. You can't do anything from not doing anything. Nothing will come to you, or you can't.
I guess
you can't do it.
Tying off this too. What is one of the toughest things is kind of like when you're considering quitting, what is making you consider that? Consider quitting. Is it? And I think it's good to identify that thing, because that thing will allow you to zone in whether or not that thing is truly something you enjoy. Like let's say you wanted to do a business, or let's say you wanted to go into gaming, and you're like, I love gaming, I think this is where my passion is, and you go work at GameStop or something, and you're at a retail store and you enjoy everything about your job, but the coworkers are really not your cup of tea. Does that mean that gaming isn't your passion? No, it might just mean that environment might not be what's best for you and how you like to, how you see yourself thriving. But there's other people that really love working at GameStop, and they're like, yeah, this is my passion. I love selling. I love talking to customers. I love the interactions on the day-to-day. And, their passion is in the retail business, the retail space of gaming, versus somebody else may be in the, a different space where they may enjoy the entertainment factor of gaming, or whatever the case may be. So I think it's understanding necessarily what is making you want to feel like, what is making you feel stuck, what's making you consider quitting, and just reassessing that.
And I like how you had said how, I don't think we had ever talked about the how you could be doing something, but like how you said GameStop, but you're working there, and then it might not be that you are what's it called? You might not be passionate about that. Then you go to something else in the field of gaming. But I don't think we ever spoke on how, when you're trying to find your passion, you're trying to find something that you enjoy, that if you go into one, because there's different fields in every single career path or whatever. Like if you're, like how you said, even with the pie making, like somebody did like pie making, then they managerial field,
Right.
and open brands and stuff like that. But I don't think this is, I'm just setting up the tone for another podcast that I just thought of. How you could be doing something like how you said in the pie making, but after a while, even though you might be enjoying that, don't you might be enjoying that, but you lose the motivation, or like you don't like after a while you don't enjoy it as much. I would say don't like give up on it, because it might be that you still enjoy that, but it just might be a different field of that type of work.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't think I worded that correctly, but like I said, that was setting the tone. So it's kind of, you get the gist of what I'm trying to say, right?
For sure. I mean, I think I was actually talking to somebody. Who was I talking to? But it's basically I was talking to somebody, and it was like, I was at dinner the other day with one of my buddies that I volunteer with, and we were just talking, and he's older than me. I think he's around 30, 31, and I'm 23, so he's a little bit older, a little bit more seasoned, and we were just talking about how every time you get good at something, that stage is over. So like, he's going into military training, and he's like, I know he knows when he gets to the end, and he's actually feels like he's up to par and he's ready to go, his training will be over. So he won't even be able to flex that, readiness, or that, that, I guess, skill that he's acquired over time. And I feel the same way. Like when I'm going through, we were talking initially about going through classes as a college student. And once you get to your last semester, you finally figured everything out. You're like breezing through it. You have a 4.0, and you're like, if only I could go back and do this over again, knowing what I know now. It's like once you finally get really good at something, it's now over, and you have to move on to the next thing. So I think that, I don't know from experience, but I think that may be similar to how regular life works, where once you get so good at something, you're going to be like, all right, it's time for the next thing. Like you can only be so good at something for so long, and then you're like, all right, this is boring me. I need a new challenge. And then you work up from there again, and you utilize your skills in the areas you acquired to now segue into something else.
Yeah.
All right, so number 10, the last one of this article is by Natalie Workman. Interesting name. She says to leverage this 3-step process. And what she says is, it's easy to get overwhelmed with the countless career choices today, but there's a 3-step process to identify work you'll love and can excel at. First, identify someone who has a career you'd like to emulate. Maybe you know them, and perhaps you don't. Once you've chosen someone, make 3 columns on a piece of paper. Write down a list of their skills, your current skills, and the skills you'll need to develop to follow in their footsteps. Finally, duplicate what they did to get where they are. Don't reinvent the wheel. Read every book they've written and watch every interview they've given. Find a way to talk to them in person, become a student of their work, and apply their principles in your life to master the skills you need to excel. Natalie Workman, co-founder of Cardone Ventures for Women. What do you think about that?
So to be honest, I was kind of iffy on this last one. Just because I strongly believe in that everybody has their own path and own way to do certain things. So the fact that she was saying, following somebody's footsteps and do exactly what they did to get to where they are, that kind of, like I said, I don't personally agree with that, just because of that belief that I have that everybody has their own experience and everybody has to not necessarily do their. I get what you're saying about like not reinventing the wheel, but you can't. Or in my opinion, I don't believe that you should follow exact. And I think me and you even had a conversation about this. How you shouldn't follow exactly what somebody does, like to the T, because that kind of takes away from the different experiences that you have and your growth and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I think I talked about how like King Zeph can't follow the Juvier blueprint.
Exactly.
It just won't work.
Exactly. It might be the same field, but it's not going to. We're two different people, two different types of channels. So his way won't work for me. And like no matter who you are, everybody is created differently. So even if you follow exactly what somebody else does, you're not that person. So you're not going to get the exact same results as them. So that's why I mean it's a good if you want to stay on the, I would say go the safe route, which is to follow exactly what somebody did, follow a blueprint. It's good if you want to do the safe route, but it's a lot more rewarding to me when you're going through certain things, even good or bad, when you go through, overcome, and just experience different things instead of following an exact path that might seem guaranteed, but it's most definitely not, because like I said, you're two different people, so you're going to have different experiences no matter what you do.
Yeah. I mean, like I mentioned before, how I said with your dad, like certain advice is like so good that it's just not realistic.
Yeah.
So like something like this, it's really kind of, I don't know. I really hate this one.
Yeah.
You were nicer than me, but it's pretty much like, all right, if you want to find out where you want to be, just know where you want to be. It's like, how am I supposed to know where I want to be, what I'm good at? You know, like, how many people can actually write down the skills they have?
Yeah.
If you knew the skills that you have, and you knew if you had that confidence in what you could do, and what you were lacking, you wouldn't need to write them down and compare them to somebody else. You would just go out and actually do them. So it's like, how can you follow in somebody or duplicate somebody? It's just a really obsessive thing. Like, I don't really like to celebritize and like obsess over one person. Like, there are some people that I look up to, some people that are role models for me. I'm like, all right, if I want to be in the same shoes as him, then I got to do X, Y, Z. But if you get caught up in, for an example, for me, like let's say I look up to a doctor, and he went to a certain school and to end up to where he is, and that's the path he chose. If I try to copy that exact thing, I'll be miserable, because this goes back into a couple ones we did, maybe number 7, where it's like, choose your own path, not your friends, family, even, that goes to role model as well, choose your own path. Trying to emulate and trying to copy exactly what somebody else did is really just, really just going into something blind. And you want to have role models, you want to have people to look up to, but I think this is maybe she's talking to a very uncertain crowd, because this is what you do when this is the type of stuff that you do when you are really lost.
That's why I said it's the safe route. So if you're in that and you don't have the confidence to venture out and do something that might be risky, then this is normally what people would do if they don't have that confidence or don't have that ability to overcome certain situations.
Right. And I think it's also for people that are very just ignorant to real life and the career they're going into. I've been in situations in college where, because I'm going to the medical school field, there's some people that are in college and they have like this dream medical school. They've never been there. They've never, or maybe a doctor they know went there or something like that and talked highly of it. But they have this dream. They have this like, oh, I'm gonna go here. If I don't go here, then my life is ruined. Blah blah blah. And it's like, it's like you don't realize how dumb you sound. Like, I've even had that mentality at times where it's like you feel like you need to do certain steps because people that have come before you have done those steps. And you're really just going into something blind and just liking and enjoying something just based off your current perception at that one time. Like, what if you find a role model and somebody where you think you want to be, and 5 years down the line you're like, oh, this guy's really nowhere where I want to be, or your life changes, or let's say you're want to have a family and this person is 5 years before, you didn't think you would want to have a family, but this person doesn't have a family, and you copied everything they did, and now you want to have a family. It's like, all right, now you have to do what? Find a family to copy off of, figure out what skills they have, what skills you have, and try to emulate them so that you'll never be self-aware in that case.
Exactly. So I mean, like how you said about I think we had talked about how like people, like when they're looking for colleges, you were saying they like look for like the perfect college and stuff like that. But I like how you said that you're like, if you think about it realistically, your mindset right now is going to be completely different. Well, not completely different, but it's gonna definitely change than your mindset 5 years down the line. So going the route of just like emulating somebody, because what you don't understand when like I said, everybody has a different experience. Everybody does different stuff. So in order for them to not just get to that place that they're at, but in order for them to be able to stay in that place and continue to solve different problems and continue to grow from where they're at, they have to had gone through certain things that would have shaped them into the person that they are. So if you're emulating what somebody does, then even if you were to get to that point in life where you're doing the exact same thing as them, your mindset and your ability to solve different problems that they are like currently doing or solving won't be as good, because you basically followed a path and you didn't go through the same risk and same different experiences and problem solving as they did, because you're not taking the risk. You're following an exact path.
Right. You can't, even if you read every single book, even if you read their life story, how are you going to emulate and duplicate how other people reacted to them, or how other people gave them a job, or how other people fired them? Like, you're gonna be like, oh, this person got fired 4 times and they finally made it. It's like, all right, I gotta get fired 4 times. And then, or if you get fired twice, you're like, all right, I know if I get fired 2 more times, then I'll be where I need to be. Or this person got fired 2 more times before they got to where they need to be, so this firing's okay. It's like, maybe you just got fired because you suck. Like, maybe you got fired because maybe you got fired because you just aren't good at your job. Like, So instead of assessing yourself, you're trying to copy a blueprint, and and kind of going back to that, what you said, like your mindset will change 5 years down the line. Even for me, like, I transferred colleges after less than that, about 20 months, and like 20 months prior, you would tell me that I would transfer. I would tell you no way. 20 months later, I end up my mindset changes, my perspective changes based on my experience, and I go a different route, and I change schools. So you never know. If I tried to copy somebody and then I decided I want to change schools, then you're in a state where you're completely lost now. Or even more lost than you would be if you came across this realization on your own. And you wouldn't trust your instincts to like, I wouldn't have been able to trust my instincts to make the move if I was trying to copy a doctor, basketball player, blueprint. Exactly. I wouldn't have trusted myself to do what was best for me.
And then, like I said, once you get to, even if you somehow make it to that exact point that they're at, once you get there, you're not going to be able to solve the same problems that they can. You're not going to be able to have different conversations with the same people that they have. You're not going to be able to be on the same mental level as they are, because you didn't go through the same. I mean, it's like you said, it's kind of impossible to go through the same exact experience as somebody. Like, you can't work. You can probably work at the same job, but are you going to tell the person that you're working for to fire you at this exact same time in your life so that you can move it? Because, like, this is ridiculous to even think of that, because it's I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
there's no
sorry,
words.
lady, but it's
There's no words. I'm sure she meant it in a good way.
yeah. No, she
Like you
definitely
said,
did.
and said in the beginning, like this is definitely a route to go. I mean, maybe we're
Yeah,
taking it too literally. I mean, it literally
yeah,
says in the article, duplicate what they did to get where they are.
yeah,
That can necessarily mean like if somebody went to college, you go to college. It doesn't have to be
yeah,
the
yeah,
exact
yeah,
college that they went to. If
yeah,
somebody, started up a business, you should start up a business. But
yeah,
how can you duplicate what they did? Like it says, write down a list of your skills, their skills, and the skills you need to develop.
yeah,
If you're 21 and this person's 55,
yeah,
how do you think you're going to be able to develop anything
yeah.
that they develop? Like you have to know what skills they had at 21,
Exactly,
and there's no way to find that out.
exactly,
There's no book
exactly,
that you could read to be like, what skills I had when I was 21.
exactly.
So you have to know every skill that they acquired, where exactly they acquired that skill,
Hmm.
and it's impossible to fill a list of experiences that somebody went through because you literally there's no way to copy that exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean, we probably did take it a little, like you said with the duplicate, but I mean, I just, in
It's
my
still bad
opinion,
advice to me.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, in my opinion, it's definitely a lot better way to go the way where you're experiencing and solving different problems. That's the only way that you could grow, is if you solve a
Right.
problem. Um, and that if you solve a problem on your your own knowledge and stuff like that, instead of looking and studying how this person solved this certain problem, you can take stuff, you can learn from somebody, but
Yeah.
emulate is definitely not something that you want to do. In
Yeah.
my opinion, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
It depends. You can admire, like I said, you can admire. You can work under somebody and be like, I like their work ethic. I like how they um, work. I like what they do. I like their
Yeah.
workflow. And you can be like, I want to, administer some of those things into my work as well.
Yeah, and
And
that's fine.
that's
That's
perfect.
fine.
And I think that's probably the better advice to say, find somebody that you look up to, see what they
Hmm.
have, what you like. I don't think her assessment of write down your skills, write down their skills. I mean, what are we really doing?
Yeah.
Like, write down your skills, write down what you'll need to do. Like, write down, just take note. Just take note of what they do and implement it into your everyday life. I remember when I was
Yeah.
shadowing a doctor and how he would talk to his patients. And at the time, I was a personal trainer, and I was like,
Yeah.
he says these key things. He says these certain words, and he says certain things that makes the patients feel comfort. Why
Yeah.
don't I try that with my personal training patients or personal training clients and see how they respond? And I started doing
Hmm.
that, and I started speaking in that way, and I started adding these things that he did, and
Yeah.
lo and behold, like it was a much stronger connection. I felt they
Hmm.
had more trust in me when I
Yeah.
was, giving them information, because I was adding a certain lesson and a certain tool that I learned from somebody else. So for
Hmm.
sure, you can look at somebody else's skill or try to emulate somebody else's, specific, uh, I guess, characteristic. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't try to line up everything that they do to it's just a lazy way of going about life.
Growth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's. I believe life is to be lived as you as you should live it. So you shouldn't try to live somebody else's life. Basically,
Yeah.
is what I'm trying to. It's
100%.
like I
It's
said,
just
everybody's different. Everybody's different. So you're actually taking away from your own life experience,
right.
which you can't get back because time can't turn back if
Right.
you try to emulate somebody else. That's what like anything. Like even if like somebody on Instagram wants to get 700,000 followers, you can't. And they try to post the same exact pictures as Rihanna or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like
It's so dumb.
it's yeah. Don't try to emulate anybody in life. You can learn from different people. You can admire different people, but never try to copy, because like I said, it's only taken away from your own personal life experience, which you cannot get back at all.
And you
so
might
time doesn't stop.
And here's like one last thing we can wrap up after this, but
yeah,
if you, let's say you write down on your list of skills, and your skills are, I like to take care of people, I'm nurturing, I'm nice, I look out for others, I care for others, and let's say you just happen to look up to Gary Vee, and or not Gary Vee, because he's a nice, caring, but like let's say you look up to somebody that doesn't have the same skills as you. So you write down your skills, you write down their skills, and you're like, wow, I have none of their skills, and I look up to this person, I want to be this person, you infatuate over this person.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, wow, I have to develop all these different skills. Meanwhile, your skills are things that they may not have.
Yeah.
So you're looking at what you have and looking at what they have, and you're like, oh, I trying to be them, so I have to lose all these skills. I have to be more tough. I have to be more hardcore. Meanwhile, you're going away from what you naturally are and what you might naturally be successful at. By just trying to copy somebody based off of whatever, like the fact that you may think they're cool.
Yeah.
It's just blind leading the blind in my eyes.
Exactly. So we're gonna wrap it up there, because we have been going for quite a while. It's gonna be a 50-minute video. That's tough. But hey, it's all filled with knowledge, you know. But as always, appreciate you guys tuning in, watching. Hope you got something from the video. Appreciate you, Terrence, once again for coming on podcast. Appreciate you guys watching. Know in the comments. Put in the comments if you have any podcast ideas or anything like that. We are looking at the 1 to 2. But so appreciate you guys watching. And we will see you in the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.